that when I wasn't doing it, my life could just feel unsatisfactory, just not fulfilling enough. And it seemed to require too much effort to stay away from alcohol. And that effort had to be continuously applied. So it was like this ongoing self improvement project that never ended. And I felt that this goal of what people call recovery just seemed too low to satisfy me. It seemed to be a very limited way of being in the world. And it seemed that I remember when I stopped for 2 years, it seemed like even at the end of that 2 years, my life was very much revolving around alcohol. Only now about not drinking it, and that just became very unsatisfying. And there was still this sense of missing out on something. There was still this sense of being somehow separate from other humans, that I felt so outside of everything. So, what changed for me is that eventually I asked myself a different question. Is I started to wonder, how would my life need to be for me to no longer have any pull back to alcohol or any drug? I mean, what kind of life would I have to have for that to be the case? And what I realized was that, well, there were certain things that if I could have them, then alcohol would have nothing to offer me. One of them was I needed to become more comfortable in my own skin. I needed to become more comfortable around other people. And I needed the world to just be more interesting, to be more full of wonder. See, that's one of the things alcohol did for me, is it would allow me to escape my normal negative thoughts. And from there, I could daydream. I could just, I would go drinking and I would just be lost in my imagination. And the world would just suddenly feel exciting and interesting. And while that ultimately wasn't the answer, that I needed some kind of wonder in my life. So I needed to get beyond that. And that's where mindfulness and all of the other things I've used, that's what that led me to. That I finally realized that the reason I was so uncomfortable in my own skin was basically I was trying to escape myself, always trying to run away. And so I never developed the resilience to be with my emotions. And I realized that that's actually something that I could do. That is something I could develop. I also realized that my thoughts basically acted like this ongoing brainwashing. And the way I tended to think, it was very negative. And to sum it up, that all of my thinking was basically based around this idea that this wasn't okay. That I was constantly reminding myself why my life wasn't okay. I was constantly reminding myself why I wasn't okay. And I was very much aware of why other people weren't okay, in that I could be very, very judgmental of other people's behaviors. And that would make me feel um, kind of disconnected from them. That I remember, I had this girlfriend that once said to me, you've got such low expectations for yourself and such high expectations for other people. And that was certainly the case, at least. The other thing was this intimacy, this feeling come from around others. And I was kind of, hinting on that there, that I realized that actually, in order for me to feel comfortable around other people, all I needed to do was let go of my ideas about how they should be behaving. That there was nothing stopping me from just liking people as they are, by just choosing to like people. Stop holding other people to this impossible standard. And as I was able to do that, to just see people as they are, then I could start to feel more connected to them. And this became a practice that I initially practiced, you know, feeling intimate with other people, feeling connected with other people. And the incredible thing was that when I got rid of the barriers that I had put up between me and other people, it was perfectly easy to feel connected to them. See, another big part of the problem was I relied on other people to make me feel good about myself. And of course, that's why I had all these big expectations for them, because I was using them like a drug. But when I no longer needed people to be a certain way to make me feel better about myself, then none of that really mattered anymore. The third thing, and this going back to that, making the world more interesting, or filling the world with wonder. What I realized is that the world itself is always full of wonder. It's the most absurd thing ever. The fact that anything exists at all is mind-boggling. But I'd managed to develop this very, very narrow way of looking at life, that I was basically caught in my ideas about life and my ideas about other people. And it was that made the world appear so small. As I was able to escape from that, and using meditation, using mindfulness to escape from that, it started to open me up to those kind of things that I was looking for through alcohol. And what happened through this process was I eventually reached a stage where I realized that alcohol had nothing to offer me anymore. And once that happened, there was no chance of ever going back to it. And in some ways, the alcohol was helpful in that it showed me what it was that I really wanted. That because what it was doing for me was, at least in the beginning anyway, was the thing that I wanted. So this idea of settling, there used to be this saying, I don't know if people still use it, but this is back in the 90s. People used to talk about recovery as a bridge to normal living. And that idea did not work for me, because I did not want normal living. The one thing I got right as a teenager was this realization that normal living wasn't going to work for me. That because it was just too small, it was too unsatisfying, and I needed something bigger. I needed something better. So, and once I had that, then there was no need for a drug. So this is what I mean when I talk about going beyond recovery, that we become somebody, or we have a life that is so satisfying. Now, satisfying doesn't mean that everything's always going to be going our own way, but it means that we have this way of relating to life, that no matter what is happening, we can be okay with it. We can find peace with it.